Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are going to be going over Microsoft Teams fundamentals in about 10 minutes. So please grab something to drink and get your computers ready, and we'll get started shortly. All right. Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to be going over Teams fundamentals. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork in Office 365. It integrates Office 365 productivity tools in one place and is the next level of communication through chat and calls, and collaboration through file sharing, co-authoring, and screen sharing. As you can see, there are a few different ways that you can use Teams. You can collaborate and communicate seamlessly. It's a single place for your teams to meet around unified objectives with easy access to the applications they use to be productive in their roles. You can even host voice and video meetings to bring the team together in real time. It has all the files that matter in one place. It's built on SharePoint, and it mitigates common workplace issues like document versioning confusion and permissions issues by housing and sharing your files in the cloud. Plus, it has all your tools in one place. You can use both Microsoft-based and third-party solutions alongside each other in a hub that centralizes your workflows and communications. There we go. You can communicate through chat, meetings, and calls, collaborate together with integrated Office 365 apps, and customize your workplace and achieve more. You can also make calls in Office 365 and Teams. It also has a great cross-platform experience. You can use the desktop app, which is available for Windows 10 and Mac OS. And you can also use the mobile app, which is available for iOS and Android. You can even use a web app, which we recommend using the new version of Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. All right, so give me one moment. I'm going to switch over to our Teams client and we'll get ready. Okay, so when you first boot up Teams for the first time, it should look something like this. I'm using the web app right now to be able to present through Teams from my desktop and show you all the web app at the same time. This is where all your teams will be listed. If you don't see anything over here, it means that you are not a member or an owner of a team yet. But first, I just want to go into the basic user interface of what it's like to use Teams. So over here on the left, we have the tab menu. Up at the top, we have activity, which is going to be very similar to a social media or smartphone feed, where it'll show you your notifications. Underneath that, we have chat. Chat is going to be the part of Teams that is most similar to Skype for Business. So if you're used to using Skype for Business, you're going to be very familiar with chat and how that works. Then we have Teams. This is where all of the teams that you are a part of will live, and we'll go a little bit deeper into what that means and how those work later. Then we have Calendar. Calendar is going to be very similar to Outlook, and if you're familiar with using Outlook, then the Teams calendar will be very user-friendly. And then we have Calls, where you can make and receive calls from within Teams. This is also where your voicemails will live if you have any. And then we have Files, and Files is going to be where you can access any files that have been uploaded to Teams that you have access to. Up along the top, we have the new chat button right here. This will allow you to start a new chat with anybody from anywhere within Teams. And then we have the search/command bar. This is a very comprehensive search, and you can do some cool commands from within here, but we'll go over everything that you can do with that a little bit later. And then over here on the right, we do have the settings menu. This is where you can access things from your digital identity within Teams, to your availability, to your status message, to your save messages, and then your Teams settings will be accessed from within there as well. But the first thing I'm going to go over today is I'm going to go over chat, because like I said, if you're familiar with using Skype for Business, then chat should be pretty familiar to you as well. Over here on the left, we have all of my recent chats. So these are automatically sorted with the newest chat at the top, meaning the chat with the most recent message in it, not necessarily the most recently created one. And then they get older as you go down. But I want to message my friend John, and John is on the call with me, and he'll be answering questions in the question and answer section. But let's say I want to send him a message. So I don't see his name over here on the left. So I'm going to click on New Chat up at the top, and that'll give me a text field. I can start typing his name, and there he is. And now what you're going to see is John and I have already messaged each other in the past, and because that's the case, you can now see we have a chat history. Now, chat history in Teams is persistent. There's no way to delete chat history. You can hide a chat, but there's no way to delete a chat. So just keep that in mind. Remember, Skype for Business, whenever you finished a conversation, it would email that conversation to you. That was nice because you could still access that conversation history, but it was kind of a pain because if you were looking for something specific and couldn't remember what day it was from, it would make it pretty hard to find it. So having a persistent chat history is nice. And here you can see that John said good morning, so I'm going to go ahead and say good morning back. If I could spell it. So this is what the chat interface looks like. It's very similar to what it'll look like when you're in a team as well. But the first thing I want to go over is I want to go over everything down here underneath the message bar. So by default, you have the message bar and it looks like this. But this first button right here is the format button. And if you click on that, it will allow you to add some new formatting options to your chat itself. You can bold, italicize, underline, strike through, change colors, change paragraph formatting options, add bullet points, quotes, hyperlinks, all that fun stuff. And that will allow you to make your messages a little bit more personal. The next one we have under there is the urgent delivery options menu. It's a little exclamation point. By default, your messages are sent as standard messages, but you can mark a message as important. And if you mark a message as important, it'll let everybody know that this message is important. So now that I've sent that message, you can see it says important at the top. It's got a little red highlight on the left, and it has an exclamation point on the right. And now you can see this little eyeball means that John has seen this message. And now, because John has read receipts turned on, which we'll go over when we go over the settings, I am able to see when he has seen a message. If I were to send him a message, and I think if I go to this chat right here, yes, if I send a message and either he hasn't seen it or not everybody in the group chat has seen it, it will just show this little checkbox inside of a circle. All right. The other option you have, other than important, is urgent message. Now, an urgent message is not something that's to be taken lightly, because if you send a message as urgent, it will send a notification every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. And after that, it will send them an email saying that they missed that message. And it will send that notification to every version of Teams they have, whether it's the desktop version, the web version, or the smartphone version. So just keep in mind that is only for emergencies. Next to that, we have the paperclip. The paperclip will allow you to upload files to this chat. You can click on upload from my computer, which will allow you to upload the file directly from your computer. Or you will be able to click OneDrive, which will share the file directly from your OneDrive. Now, keep in mind, if you upload the file from your computer, because we are currently in a chat, and a chat is used for smaller groups of people than a team, anytime you upload a file to a chat, even if you upload directly from your computer, that file will be stored in your OneDrive. So if you click upload from your computer, it'll still upload that to your OneDrive and then share it to everybody within this chat. If you click on OneDrive, it'll just cut the middleman and share directly from your OneDrive. But either way, that file is going to be in your OneDrive. The next thing we have are the fun things that you can do. You can add emoji. Lots of workplaces have varying age ranges, and I know a lot of younger people are used to using emoji when they speak, and so we have that. Same with GIFs. We also have availability of GIFs that you can use to liven up your chats a little bit. I think this is pretty cute, so I'm going to go ahead and send that. And then you have stickers and memes. Stickers and memes will allow you to basically create little funny messages and pictures that you can send to the chat as well. Next to that, we have the ability to schedule a meeting. We will go deeper into meeting scheduling a little bit later in the training, but just for now, know that you can click on schedule a meeting from within a chat, and it will schedule a meeting with everybody who is in that chat. And then we have the stream button. This is for Microsoft Stream, which is a video hosting platform. And Anytime there's something hosted on stream, you can put the link right here and embed the video directly into the chat. And then the last thing we have is praise. And praise is a great way to show somebody that you appreciate the work that they have done. I'm going to go ahead and send praise to Jon and say thanks for being awesome. And that's what it's going to look like. I'll go ahead and send that. And keep in mind where you insert praise will be seen by everybody who can see it, but it will do something else that is something that will be used very much in Teams, which is it will mention the person that you sent praise to. And when it mentions somebody, notice now his name is a clickable link. And if I hover over it, it shows me his email address. It allows me to chat, send an email, view organization, start a video call, or start an audio call. And a mention will also send a notification directly to that person that they got mentioned. And here you can see what it looks like when you get mentioned on the other end. So because this isn't me, this is somebody else getting mentioned, it shows up as a purple hyperlink. But over here, I was mentioned, and you can see it shows as an orange hyperlink. It's got a little orange highlight on the left, and it's got a little @ symbol on the right because I was mentioned. Now, when you send praise, it will automatically mention somebody, but this little @ symbol shows up because you can mention somebody at any time by just typing @ and then starting to type their name. Also, when you press the @ symbol, if there are people in the chat with you, it will by default show up with their names as well. And as you can see, me typing @ and then typing his name had another mention. Now, another thing that you can see that he did was he reacted to my message as well. And what that does is it basically allows you to non-verbally show that you have read something. So when you hover over a message, you can see it brings up this nice little menu of reactions you can do. And I can go over here and I can click on this thumbs up, and that will tell Jon that I read that message without me having to actually say that I read it. I know I replied down here, but let's say you're in a group chat or a one-on-one chat or a team, and somebody sent a message, and there's a lot of people around, and maybe you don't need every single person to chime in that they read the message. You can say something like, hey guys, react to this message once you've read it. And then everybody who reads it will react to it, and then you can hover over the reactions and be able to see a list of everybody who has reacted to that message. You have thumbs up, you have the heart, you have the laughing emoji, surprised, sad, and angry. And then to the right of that, you also have this ellipsis. We'll be talking about the ellipsis a lot because pretty much every menu within Teams has an ellipsis that gives you more options. But for chat, it's only a few things. It'll allow you to save this message, which you can access from your settings menu. You can mark it as in red in case you want to look at it later. You can share it to Outlook, which will send you an email with the message in it, or you could open it in Immersive Reader, which is really good if you want to read something free of distractions. And then more actions is just going to be some bot actions. So that's about everything involving the message bar. But real quick, I do want to talk about everything that's up here at the top. So within every chat and also within every team, you have tabs up at the top, which will allow you to access some extra options. First tab is always going to be the chat or posts, which is what it will be called within a team. And the second chat is always going to be files. And this files tab will have every file that has been uploaded into a chat or into a team. And so if I click on that, you'll see that Jon has uploaded a file. So this file is in Jon's OneDrive, but because he's uploaded it to this chat, everybody who has access to this chat is able to edit this file. So I could click on that and it'll open it directly within Teams. But first I want to show you what it's like if I go and I click this ellipsis over here. So again, edit in Teams is the first option. However, I can also open it in the browser, which will open it in a new tab in my browser, but I can also open it in the desktop app. Opening it in the desktop app will stream a version of the file to your, in this case, Word application on your computer, which is useful if you want access to advanced formatting options. Editing within Teams or editing within your browser will give you access to the browser formatting options, which is a fair number of them, but it's not everything that you have access to in the desktop version of Word. Under that, we have download. Now, keep in mind, if you click on this button, it will download a copy of the file, and that can lead to some versioning confusion if it's a file you plan on sending out to somebody else later. However, if it's a file that doesn't need to be updated and you just need to view it for reference for any reason, downloading it may be a good idea so you don't have to keep coming back and opening it up from within Teams. You can also get a direct link to the file. Keep in mind, if you share that link with somebody, they will have to have access to the file to be able to view it. Then we have organization. Organization is if it is set up for your agency or your tenant, you'll be able to see the organization layout for the person you're viewing. Excuse me one moment. All right, and then the next one is activity. And activity will allow you to see the activity of the person that you're viewing as well. And this is everything John has posted and replied and so on and so forth. But I want to go back to files because I want to show you when you click on this button right here, like I said earlier, it will open up the file directly within Teams. All right, and now you can see that we are able to have this file open within Teams itself. You can see down here, it's got some interesting stuff. This is basically telling me that since I've last been here, John has deleted some of these words. That's what these red strike throughs means. And then this shows that this is a new addition since I was last viewing this file. So if a file is uploaded within Teams, then people can co-author that file at the same time. The basically soft limit of co-authoring within Teams is 10 people working on a document at the same time. You can have more than that, but every subsequent person after 10 will show a drop in quality when it comes to editing that file. And there are a couple limitations. If you're editing a Word document, then everybody must be editing different paragraphs. If you're editing an Excel spreadsheet, everybody must be editing different cells. And if you're editing a PowerPoint presentation, then everybody must be editing different slides. And then up here, you can add comments. For example, if you want to mark up the file without actually changing it, you can click on this button here and that'll allow you to add comments. But let's say that I wanted to talk to John about this file that we're co-authoring together, but I don't necessarily want to have to go back and then open the file up again. If I click on conversation here, it will actually bring up the chat where I was chatting with John, and you can see I can just continue that chat directly from within here. So that is if you add it in a one-on-one chat or a group chat, you'll be able to see that chat directly from within the file. And here you can see that John actually just started co-authoring this file as well. So now you can see it has his name listed up here. If there are more people than will fit here, it will basically list everyone it can. Then I'll have a little buttable that says like +2 or +5 or however many more people there are. And now, here you can see Jon is editing the file. I can see his cursor right here. If I hover over it, it shows me that it's him. But he's saying that he's glad that Control-Z exists. And if you're not sure, Control-Z is undo, because he deleted everything by accident. Thankfully, if that were to happen to you, there's another thing other than undo that you could do to fix that as well. If you have a file open in the desktop app, you are actually able to view a version history of that file, which will allow you to look at all the changes that have been made to the file and who has made those changes, and allow you to undo those changes. So I know having a file available to everybody to edit can sometimes result in some people not doing the best edits, but keep in mind that you are able to view the version history of those files. Everything else, you have a button right here that says Open in Desktop App, and that will allow you again to stream a copy of the file to your desktop app. But that's going to be about everything that you can do with co-authoring in Teams. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now, up here in the upper right, we do have a few more options. So the first is going to be video call. I can start a video call with Jon directly from this menu here. And the next one is audio call. I can start an audio call with Jon directly from here as well. And then over here on the right is the Add People button. So let's say I'm working with Jon on something and we decide that we want to loop somebody else in. Do we have Diane? I thought we did. Guess not. Let's say just system administrator. Let's say we want to loop in system administrator. Is this? Nope, we already have that one. Let's do Marvin. Oops, Jon's already in this. Yeah, let's do Jonathan Storm. All right, so because I added some more people to the chat, it now no longer has my chat history that I had with Jon. Because I started a new group chat, it now is a completely fresh group chat. And there are a couple things that you can do unique to this. First thing is, earlier I showed that you could click this button to schedule a meeting. If you do that with a group chat, it will invite everybody in that group chat to that meeting. So that's very useful if you're working on something within a group chat, and then you want everybody in that group chat to be able to come to a meeting. You can invite them all with one click. And then up here at the top, you can see Arthur, Jonathan, Jon, +2. It's trying to list everybody in that group chat, but that's not very helpful. So we can actually go over and click on that pencil, and we can rename the group chat. I'm going to call it Stormy Sundays in honor of yesterday's storm. I'll go ahead and hit save, and now you can see right here it said that I changed the name to Stormy Sundays, and over here you can see that group chat says Stormy Sundays over on the left as well. There's one more thing that you can do with a group chat, and that's in the upper right hand corner. You can click on this button again, and now it'll show everybody within the chat. I can remove people from the chat. So let's say I want to remove Marvin from the chat. I can click on that, and it will tell me that Marvin will still have access to the chat history that he was present for. So he will not get new messages from this group chat, but he will still be able to access everything from the chat history. I'm going to go ahead and say Yes, remove. And I'll type in here, Marvin is gone now. And you can see there's a message that I removed him from the chat. But uh-oh, something just happened in our project and we need Marvin again. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to add people. And I'm going to add Marvin back to the chat. But now, because this is already a group chat with chat history, you can see we've got a couple more options now. We can choose not to include any chat history. We can include chat history from the past number of days, or we can include all chat history. So maybe while Marvin was gone, somebody said something about Marvin's work habits that we don't want Marvin to see. We can choose not to include any chat history. But thankfully, this is a pretty good group, and nobody was talking smack about Marvin behind his back. So I'm going to go ahead and include all chat history and add him back. And now you will see here that Shane added Marvin to the chat and shared all chat history. So it does let everybody in the group chat know that all chat history has been shared. That's about everything when it comes to sending and receiving chats. However, there is one more thing I want to go over here on the left, and that is reorganizing chats. So like I said, all of your recent chats are going to be sorted this way by default. You can click on recent up here and hide the chat. But it's still going to be, depending on how many chats you have, it can become quite a mess with how many things you have here and how disorganized they become. So let's say I talk to John a lot. I can go click on this ellipsis over here, and I can click on pin. And that's going to pin my chat with John to the top. And no matter what messages are sent down here in my recent chats, my chat with John is always going to be at the top too. And let's say this brainstorm session right here is something that I chat in a lot as well. I'm going to pin that too. And now you can see I have two chats pinned up here at the top. And no matter what messages I receive down here, these ones will always be at the top here. And I can even collapse that recent if I don't want to see them either. I also told you that chat history is persistent. So this chat I have with John right here, let's say I were to hide it because I don't want to see it anymore. It's not going to show up here anymore. You can see no longer do I have my chat with John. But just like I did at the beginning of our training session, if I click on that new chat button right there and I type in John's name, it will bring up that chat along with all of our chat history. So the chat history is never gone. Sometimes you can just hide it. I'm going to go ahead and discard that though. And I will go ahead and unpin that brainstorm session. Alrighty, so that's about everything when it comes to chat. John, do we have any questions from the audience before I move on to the next part of the training?
We are good on questions for now.
All right, thank you very much.
Very good walkthrough so far.
Thank you. I do just want to remind everybody that this session and previous sessions have been recorded. We'll be able to drop the link for you where those recordings are stored. But just keep that in mind in case you want to come back and watch this at your own pace. So the next option we have underneath is Teams. And Teams are going to be where you access the bulk of the work that you'll be doing within Microsoft Teams, depending on how your organization is laid out. A team is a workspace that you're either an owner or a member of. If you boot up Microsoft Teams and you don't see any teams over here, that means that you're not a member or an owner of a team yet. If you are an owner of a team, that means you can go to the settings and control various options. Members typically do not have as many permissions as owners, but what permissions members do have can be determined by owner, so it will vary from team to team. Depending on your organization, it is very likely that you will have to request creating a new team. And before I go into the individual teams, I do just want to point out that you do have some of the same options with organizing your teams as we did with our chat. So let's say you have a team that you are that's not super relevant to you. You can hide that team, and you'll see it down here. Unlike in chat where it's gone if you hide it, down here it will be under hidden teams. So as you can see, I've hidden this team. It's the West Coast team. It's not really pertinent to me, but I do know some of the people in that team send some really good information. So I want to be able to access that team whenever I can, but I don't necessarily want to leave it and not have access to the resources anymore. So I'm going to stay in the team, but I'm just going to hide it. And just like hiding a chat, you hide a team by clicking on the ellipsis and clicking hide right here. And then on top of that, you can also pin specific channels from within teams. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I wanted to show you that I've hidden that team because I've hidden the West Coast team. And again, I'm not on the West Coast, so that's not really pertinent to me. So I'm going to click join or create a team and see if maybe there's an East Coast team. And what do you know? There's an East Coast team right here. So when you click join or create a team, it brings you to this menu. First thing you can hit is create team right here, which I'm going to go over in a little bit, what it's like when you create a team. The next thing is joining a team with a code. Again, I'm going to go over that a little bit later once we've gone over some of the team management settings. But any team that is listed as public will show up in this list if you are within an organization that has public teams. And so you can just click on join team, and then it'll take a second, and now you can see that the team has populated down here. I have now joined the East Coast team. So joining teams is very easy. You just click on join or create a team down here, and you look for any public teams. In addition to that, if there are other teams that you are not a part of yet, you will need to be invited to those teams by either an owner or a member. Alrighty, so within every team, you have channels, which are going to be these right here, and you have tabs, which are going to be up here, and those are going to be very similar to the tabs we saw in chat. A channel is dedicated to a specific topic, department, or project. Conversations around that topic, department, and project are held here, and the channel can be customized with its own tabs to bring resources into one place. A channel also creates a folder within SharePoint for the channel's shared files. So like I said, when you share a file within a chat, it will always be shared from the OneDrive of the person uploading it. Contrary to that, when you share a file within Teams, it will be uploaded to the SharePoint folder of the channel that it was shared within. Here you can see an example of some more tabs as well. Real quick, you'll notice that the urgent exclamation point is no longer listed down here. That's because when you are within a team, it is in the formatting options. It is extra over here. And if you click right here, you'll see that it only marks it as important. You cannot send an urgent message to a team or a channel. You can only send important messages. Another option we have within formatting is here where it says new conversation. You can change that to announcement. You may see right here that you can add a subject to a message as well. And if you make something an announcement, it'll create a nice big banner that's very flashy and very eye-catching for anybody who's scrolling within the team. You click on this button if you want to change the color as well. You can also choose who is allowed to reply. So you can make it so only you and moderators can reply if it's just information that you want to get out there, but you don't want a bunch of replies. Or you can even post it in multiple channels, which will allow you to post the same message in multiple channels, and you can even post it in multiple teams at the same time as well. One of the differences between chat and teams is that within chat, it's just a free-flowing conversation with every new message showing up in the chat history. However, in a team, every post is a conversation, and you can see right here that anybody replying to that post will reply directly to it, and it will save it together in the conversation. And so because of that, it does allow for a little bit more organization within teams. Up here, you can see what it's like when an announcement is made and a picture is added as the announcement banner. You can see over here that there is a special system or symbol that will tell you that it's an announcement as well. Keep in mind, I just mentioned that you can post a message to multiple channels, and people can reply to messages. However, if you post a message to multiple channels, the replies will be unique to the channel that that post is inside of. Just like in chat, you can hover over things and you can react to them. We do have a couple of extra actions as well, but it's mostly going to be the same thing. One of the things you can do is you can turn on notifications for a specific post. So if that post is pertinent to you, you can turn on notifications so you know every time somebody has replied to it. Alrighty, so like I said, channels are basically specific topics for conversation. Every team, when it's created, will start with a general channel, and that general channel is usually just a source for general conversation. Every channel that's created subsequent to that will automatically be hidden, but you can click on your hidden channels right here to see all of the different channels that are available to you. If they're hidden, you can still access them. It just means that they won't show up in your list automatically. So let's say healthcare is pertinent to me. I can go ahead and click that. And you can see now that it is italicized. And that means that it is still hidden. And when I click away from it, you'll see that it disappears and it goes back into hidden channels. So let's say I want to be able to see healthcare all the time. I can actually hover over it and just click on show right here. And now you can see healthcare is available and it's no longer italicized, meaning it's not hidden anymore. In addition to that, you can also hit the ellipsis on the side of the team, and there's some more menu options for you as well. A lot of these will depend on whether you're a member or an owner, but you can manage team, add a channel, add a member, leave a team, edit a team, get a link to a team, or manage tags. Real quick, I'll go over what tags are because I find tags to be very useful. Here you can see a tag has already been created. But I'll show you what it's like when I create a tag. So what was this one? Project 1 legal. I'll create Project 2 legal. And I'm going to add myself, John, and Marvin. And I'll hit create. And what that does is it allows that tag to be mentioned within the team. If you click on your tags, it'll show tags that you're a part of. I'm a part of Project 2 Legal. But now I can go and hit @ to mention, and it'll give us a list of people within the team. But if I start typing, now you can see it'll allow me to mention the tags. So I'm going to mention Project 1 Legal, and I'll mention Project 2 Legal as well. And I'll hit enter. And now you can see that Project 1 Legal is the normal purple hyperlink, but Project 2 Legal is the orange hyperlink because that's the one that I am a part of. So just like mentioning other people and being mentioned by other people, mentioning tags and being mentioned by having your tag mentioned by other people will show up exactly the same as if you are mentioning other people as well. If you click on the ellipses next to a channel itself, you have some other options as well. One of the things you can do is you can pin specific channels from a team. So let's say I pin that channel, and I also want to pin the general channel from Northern Disaster Planning. You can now see up here at the top, it has the team name and the channel name on top, just to show you where that's from. So if you have lots of channels that you are a part of and you want the most pertinent ones to be up here at the top, then that's going to be the easiest way for you to do that. I believe we have some files in the general channel here. Like we went over in chat, we've got these tabs up at the top. I'm going to go ahead and hit files here so you can see what that looks like. We're going to have a few more options within a team than we did within a channel. We can directly create a new file right from in here, and that will allow us to create the file from within Teams. We can upload a file or a folder from our computer. This sync button here is pretty useful. If you're familiar with syncing a SharePoint folder, this is essentially the same thing. It will put the folder, the SharePoint folder that contains all of these folders and files on your computer and sync it with your file explorer so that you can access and edit all of those files directly from your computer without having to go into Teams if that is easier for you. You can copy a link. That will copy a link to the folder containing all of these files and folders. You can download. This will download a zip file of everything in this folder. Again, like before, it will be copies of everything in this folder. So if versioning is important to you, you wouldn't want to do this. But if you just want to download them for reference, you could do that. Add cloud storage allows you to add third-party cloud storage. Depending on your agency or tenant, this will not be available to you. Or you can open in SharePoint. I'll go ahead and click that, and you can see that this folder has its own SharePoint folder accessible. You can see right here it shows Northern Earthquake Exercise and allows you to look at all the files. If I go up to Documents, you'll see it'll have a different folder for each channel, as well as any other folders that have been created. But I'll go ahead and exit out of that. Just like in the chat, you do have some extra options when you click the ellipsis. But now it gives you where you can open it, but it also gives you some other options as well. You can pin, you can delete it, you can download it, make it into a tab, which will have it show up here. Open it in SharePoint, move it, copy it, or check out a file. The next tab we have is the Wiki tab. The Wiki tab can be a little bit difficult to go into, if only because it is so open that you can really use it for anything that you want. The way I usually put it is it's very similar to a OneNote notebook, but a OneNote notebook that everybody within the team has access to and can share. It's a great place to put how-tos and reference material. But in addition to that, I'm going to go overhead and skip over to the right here to this little plus sign, because that is the add a tab symbol. And that will allow you to add your own tab to the top of a channel or a chat. And you can link a SharePoint document library. You can link directly to a SharePoint. Add an Excel file, PowerPoint file, stream video, OneNote notebook, PDF file, Power BI for data analytics, Word file, or even link directly to a website. And that will allow you to open the website from directly within Teams. Keep in mind that to link to a website, you will have to add it will have to be a secured website, so HTTPS, not just HTTP.
But if it is a secured website, you are able to add that in there as well as a tab. And as you can see, we have some other tabs that have been added to this team already. And clicking on them will allow us to open whatever they are directly in here. So this is Planner. Somebody has added Planner to this tab. But if I click over here, I believe this is a PDF. Yep, there it is. We'll be able to click on this tab right here and directly open this PDF within Teams. And that way, if there's a file that your team is using a lot and needs to access a lot, you can add it as a tab directly at the top. And here you can see Bing search. This is what it looks like when you add a website as well. So you can directly go to that website. So if there are files and websites that your team is using a lot, you can add them as tabs at the top, and everybody will be able to access them at any time. One more thing I want to go over. This is pertinent to both Teams and chat. But let's say I send a message and it wasn't the message I meant to send. I can go into the ellipsis over here, and one of the options I do have is edit. I can then edit that message, but it will display to everybody that I have edited that message. But let's say I don't want that message to be there anymore at all. I can go ahead and delete it. Keep in mind, editing and deleting messages is something that has to be enabled within your tenant. So it is possible that you will not have access to those features. And if you deleted a message that you did not mean to delete, you can click on this undo message right here. All right, so now I'm going to go into team creation, just so everybody can see what that looks like. So you can build a team from scratch, or you can create it from an existing Office 365 group or team. I'm going to build it from scratch. And you have an option of 3 different ways you can create a team. And this is every single team that has ever been made is one of these 3 options. A private team is it will start out with just you as an owner of the team, and you will have to invite new people to that team. If it's a public team, it'll be like that East Coast team I joined earlier, where it will just show up when people go to join a team. Or if it's an org-wide team, everybody in your organization will be automatically added to that team. But I'm going to go ahead and just create a private team. So I'm going to go ahead and create my Stormy Sunday squad. And it will allow me to add members to the team. I'm going to skip this for now because I'm going to show you how to manually add members later after a team has been created. So now this team has been created. You can see it down here. It's only got a general channel because that is the only channel that a team will start with. But as you can see right here, it'll show you that you can add more people, you can create more channels, or you can even open the frequently asked questions. However, I'm going to do all that from clicking on this ellipsis and clicking Manage Team right here, because that will allow me to see all the settings for this team that I have created. Now I can see myself in this first tab. It says Members. I can see myself as a member right here. I can look at what tags I'm a part of, and I can also switch my role. Keep in mind, if you accidentally make yourself a member, you will have to get another owner to make you into an owner. But here I can click on Add Member, and that will allow me to add members to this team. So I can add John, and I can add Marvin. I'll go ahead and click Add. And I can decide whether they want to be, I want them to be an owner or a member. I'm going to go ahead and make John an owner. There we go. And now you can see here he is. And I can change his status. Now, anybody can request to add a person to a team, but only owners can add somebody to a private team. So if a member requests somebody to be added, that person will show up under pending requests, and an owner will have to approve that person. Over here, you can see all the channels within the teams. So I can add a channel here. And I can even choose if I want that channel to be standard or private. So if I want that channel to be private and I hit next, just like when I created the private team, it wants me to add members. So I'm going to add John. I'm going to click add. And another cool thing you'll see is even though John is an owner of this team, because I'm creating a private channel, I can decide whether or not I want him to have ownership permissions in this private channel. I don't, so I'm going to leave him a member. I'm going to click done. And so now you can see there's a little padlock next to this channel, and that means that it is a private channel. And I'm the only owner of this channel. Even though John is an owner of the entire team, he doesn't have ownership permissions within this channel. I'm going to go back to Manage Team. And I don't think there's anything else when it comes to channels. Keep in mind you can also leave channels and delete channels, as well as make other changes too. Under settings, you're just going to have some general settings for the team itself. You can change the team picture. As you can see, some of these teams over here have pictures. It's reflected right here. Member permissions is what I was talking about earlier, where member permissions will vary from team to team. You can decide whether or not you want members to be able to create and update channels, create private channels, so on and so forth. There's a lot of different options in there. You can also decide whether or not you want guests to do a couple things as well. You can choose whether or not people can mention the entire channel or the entire team. And you can also generate a team code. A team code is basically a short code that you can give to somebody, and they will be able to use it to join your team. Keep in mind, anybody who gets that team code will be able to join without an owner approving them being able to join. So just be wary of who you're giving that team code to, and make sure it's only people you want to be able to join your team, and trust not to share it to people you don't want to be able to join your team. Here's fun stuff right here. You can choose whether or not GIFs and memes and everything else is allowed in your team. And then underneath that, you can decide who is able to manage tags in the team. General just bolded. Yep, because now you see some messages where it says changes that I've made to the team. Real quick, I'll click on join or create a team so you can see if somebody gives you a team code, this is how you join it right here. And then I'm actually going to look at a different team for analytics, because the analytics of the team I just created are not going to be very useful. Let's go ahead and click on analytics here. So yeah, now you can see how many users there are, how many posts, how many replies, how many apps, how many meetings, as well as a graph which will show you active users in the team. And this is really useful for people who want analytics on whether or not everybody is using Teams. You can also change it to specific channels, and you can do up to 90 days back as well. Alrighty. Do we have any questions on Teams before I head on to calendar and scheduling meetings and events?
Let's see. Are you able to call directly from Teams to Skype for Business? Somebody asked.
There is a limited capability of contacting people who are using Skype for Business from within Teams. It really depends on your tenant, though, whether or not you'll be able to make calls. What you can do is when you can start a new chat, and you can type in their email address, and if they're not using Teams, it may show up as an external email address. But again, if you're on Teams, anybody using Skype for Business will be counted as an external person, and that is entirely up to your tenant whether or not you'll be able to contact them.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Somebody asked about well, this is actually a little bit off topic, but when it comes to, just so we can answer it here, when it comes to posting files in a chat, like within a team, because it's going to end up in SharePoint of the team anyway, if there is a trade-off between sharing through a chat within a channel versus directly posting to SharePoint, there is no trade-off. It really comes down to preference, I believe, since they both communicate with each other. If you post it in a channel, it's going to end up in the documents on SharePoint there anyway. So we want to follow the idea of having everything and doing everything in Teams. But if you prefer doing that sort of backend stuff through SharePoint, it really comes down to your workflow. And somebody else asked if the Teams calendar syncs with Outlook calendar. It does. So any events you created on Outlook will populate on to Teams and vice versa. Have you gone over creating a Teams meeting through Outlook? I may have missed that.
No, I have not. I'm going to show creating a Teams meeting from within Teams, and then I'll pop over to Outlook and show that.
Perfect, thank you. But that is, I believe, one more is will everyone need to be on Teams to have a meeting with people a part of different teams? Will everyone need to be on Teams to have meetings with people a part of different teams? If you're not a part, if you and the other person that you're trying to have a meeting with, if you two are not in the same team, well, no, because you could just share a link, honestly, from whatever meeting. So even if you're not a part of that team, unless it's private, unless you share a link, I'm pretty sure you can join a meeting in a channel of a team that you're not a part of, unless I'm wrong.
So I guess the question is, if somebody doesn't have the Teams application, can they join a meeting? And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
You can invite somebody to a meeting via email. Like I said, I'm going to show what it's like to create a Teams meeting in Outlook, and you'll be able to send that meeting invite to people via their email and not necessarily who use Teams. And they'll be able to click the link in that email and join that Teams meeting, even if they don't have the Teams application or Teams enabled for their agency. From within Teams itself, whether or not you can chat or call with somebody, again, same as Skype for Business. It depends on whether or not you're allowed to communicate with external people. Alrighty. Anything else before I start going into calendar?
I believe that is all. And Tim is also here with us, Shane.
Hi, Tim.
Hello, Tim. But that is all, yeah.
Alrighty. So those of you familiar with using Outlook are probably going to be pretty familiar with how it looks in Teams. It's a much simpler view in Teams. One question we do get a lot is shared calendars and group calendars. Right now, Teams does not have the functionality for shared calendars and group calendars. It is something they're working on, but not something that's available right now. So if you find yourself using shared calendars and group calendars a lot, you may want to continue with Outlook when it comes to creating events and looking at your calendar. But the thing I like about Teams is that every event is shown on here, and I can actually just click on an event to join it directly from here. So if I click on this morning meeting event right here, you'll see in the upper right hand corner, join is one of the options I have. I'm not going to do that yet. I will show you what it's like inside a meeting, but right now I am going to show you what it's like creating a meeting from scratch. And that's what I'm going to do by hitting this new meeting button up here in the upper right. So there are a couple different things. First is going to be the title of the meeting. So I'm going to call this one Stormy Sunday Cleanup. And then I can add required attendees. John, as always. I'll add Marvin. Let's see if Joni is available. And then, how about system administrator? Excellent. Let's do Arthur too. So I have a bunch of people up here. And let's say I want to make it for tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Uh-oh. Now you can see 4 of the names turned red. That is because even though you cannot view other people's calendars, you will be able to see what times that they are busy. And if I go up here to scheduling assistant, we can see that tomorrow at 10 a.m., everybody except for Joni is going to be in this morning meeting. And Marvin even has an extra meeting that he's in after that morning meeting. And so up here at the top where it says all attendees, it shows busy from 10 to 11:30, because that is when anybody who's invited is busy. And you can see the first suggested time is going to be 11:30, because that is when Marvin gets out of his meeting, and that is when everybody will be available, is at 11:30. So even though it won't tell me what these meetings are, so it still maintains privacy, you can still see when everybody is busy and when they will be available to join your meeting. I'm going to go back to details. And I'll use that suggested time, and now you can see they're not red anymore. You can make the meeting an all-day meeting. You can change some of the repeating options as well. The custom repeating options are pretty cool too. You can have it repeat every week, every 2 weeks, every month, every 2 months, until whenever you want it to stop. You can even tag a channel in a meeting that will allow everybody within that channel to join that meeting. However, you will need to add somebody as a required attendee for it to automatically show up on their calendar. If you add a channel, people can click on that meeting and add that meeting to their calendar, but it will not show up on their calendar automatically. And then you can add a location as well. Let's say there's a specific room in your building you want to meet in, or a specific building on your campus, or maybe once we're allowed to go outside, you want to meet at the Starbucks down the street. You can do any of that by adding your location right here. And you can add some details down here if you want to as well. This is good for if you want an itinerary for the meeting, or to add some information about what's going to be covered beforehand. But I think that's good for now. I'm going to go ahead and send that meeting invite. And now you can see, oh, it showed up there for a second. That's okay, it'll show up again. When you click on this arrow next to new meeting, you can also see that live event is an option. A live event is actually what we're in right now. It is one or a couple presenters who are presenting to an audience of up to 10,000 people. That's good if you want to be able to give a presentation where you don't need, where you have a lot of people and you don't want everybody to be talking over each other all the time. A Teams event has a limit of 250 people who can be in a Teams event at the same time, or a Teams meeting, sorry. Real quick, I'm going to switch over and I'm going to show you how to make that meeting within Outlook, and then I will go over what your options are when you're actually inside a meeting. So give me one moment to switch over to Outlook. Alrighty, so this is my Outlook right here, and as you can see up here, I do have a button. Excuse me. I do have a button up here for a new Teams meeting. And clicking that will allow me to create a new Teams meeting within Outlook. And I'll show you what that button looks like. So this is what it's like creating a Teams meeting within Outlook. A lot of the options are the same. You can set the Teams title right here, or the meeting title right here, which is the subject. But if you want to invite people from outside your organization to a Teams meeting, this Outlook dialog box is going to be the way to do that, because you can send this meeting directly to any email address you put in this field, and will allow you to invite people from outside of your organization to that meeting. You can see down here, there are some join options. This link will take you to a website, which will allow you to join the audio or video call from that website. So even if they don't have the Teams application, they'll still be able to join that way. Or if you don't need the video and you don't have the ability to join from the website, you can dial in and put in this conference ID. And that will allow you to call in from a phone as well, just like you could with Skype. So all of that information is there. And one thing that the Outlook version does have is the Room Finder. If you do use Room Finder, then this may be very useful for you if that's something that you use in your building a lot. But that is what it's like to create a Teams meeting from within Outlook. Save the changes. So I believe John mentioned this earlier, but your Outlook calendar and your Teams calendar will reflect each other. However, keep in mind, if you want to join a meeting from within Teams, you do have to hit this new meeting button here in Teams, or hit the Create Teams Meeting from within Outlook. Otherwise, it will just be an appointment on your calendar. All right, give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and click Meet Now. That will create a private meeting that only I am a part of, but I want to show you exactly what that looks like. So this is what we call the lobby or the powder room. And this will allow you to make sure all your settings are correct before you join a meeting. You can toggle your camera on and off, and you'll see a video feed here of what that looks like. You can turn your mic on or off. By default, if there are more than a few people already in the meeting, your mic will be off. So when you join, you don't disturb them. However, even if you're the first or second person joining a meeting, I would still recommend joining with your mic off, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. Right here, you can adjust your device settings to make sure that your headphones or your speakers are working properly. If you and other people in the same room are joining the same meeting and some of you don't have headphones, Joining with audio off might be a good thing because it'll prevent reverb and echo issues. Or you can even have your phone be used for the mic and speaker, and you can have the video play on your computer. And that's good if you say you don't have headphones or a microphone, and your computer doesn't have speakers for any reason. You'll be able to do that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and click join now. And this is what it looks like inside a meeting. Right now, it has the people menu up because there is nobody else in the meeting with me at the moment. And it really wants me to invite somebody else so that I'm not in here alone. But I'm not going to do that right now. Here you can see we have the ability to turn the camera on or off. We can unmute or mute ourselves. And we can share our screen. Sharing your screen doesn't quite work yet with the web app. If you see, if I click share, when I click on my desktop, oh, maybe they did add it. Interesting. Cool. But that's what it would look like if you're sharing your screen in there. If you click on the ellipsis here, we've got more actions yet again. We can access those device settings again. We can show meeting notes, which you can take before the meeting or during the meeting, and anybody can access them. We can show the meeting details. If we click on that, we'll be able to see all of the meeting details over here. We can enter full screen. We can use a keypad. We can start recording. If you record a meeting, it will show a banner up at the top telling everybody in the meeting that it's being recorded. But it's usually best to warn everybody that you're recording anyway. Those recordings will automatically be uploaded to Microsoft Stream, and then the person who started the recording will be the owner of that video, and then anybody can download that as well. You can end the meeting, which will disconnect everybody. And you can turn off incoming video if people have left their video on and they are distracting. Right here, it says show conversation. This will show a meeting chat. And this meeting chat will be a group chat that involves everybody who was in the meeting and invited to the meeting. So people who have their mics off can chat in here, and people who are not able to join the meeting but are able to still view the chat from their computer will be able to message in here as well. And then this is the first window that was up. You can see the participants. You can invite somebody. And if you're the organizer of the meeting, you can also mute other participants as well. There's even a mute all button where you will be able to mute everybody so that you don't have a lot of chatter when you're presenting. Okay, do we have any questions about meetings and calendar before I move on to the last few bits of the application?
I believe right now you are okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Also, before you move on, Tim, we are on until 11:30.
Alrighty, so under calendar here, we have calls. Now by default, this is just going to be calls within Teams. If you did use Skype for Business before, your contacts from Skype for Business will show up in this contacts field. You can then add them to your speed dial or your favorites, and you can view your calling history. And then if anybody calls you and you don't pick up, they can leave you a voicemail, which you'll access from here. Depending on your tenant, you might be able to integrate your phone system with Teams as well, in which case you can call people using your phone system and access your phone system voicemails and everything like that within this menu as well. But by default, it's just going to be the calls within Teams. And then here you have files. Files will give you access to every file that you have available to you in Microsoft Teams. It will be files that were shared with you via chat or files that were shared with you via Teams. Everything that you have access to will show up in here. And just give it a moment to load, because every file I have access to is a lot of files, and it will load here in a moment, and you'll be able to see what it looks like when I'm looking at all of my files. Okay, I guess maybe my internet and the fact that I'm presenting is causing a little bit of a problem, but this is where the files would be. And it would be every file that you have access to, and they would not be organized, and it would just kind of be a big jumble of files. And that's not what I want to look at. I want to be able to find a specific file. So that's where this bar comes in, the search bar. Now, I remember that John shared a file with me, and I remember he called it "Please check this," but I don't remember where he uploaded it. So I'm going to search for that. I'm going to hit enter, and we can see some messages from John, or even a message from me, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for files. So if I click on that, now you can see here's this file, and I'm able to access it directly from this dialog that I brought up just by using this search bar. So like I said before, this search bar is very comprehensive. You can use it to search for anything within Teams. And I clicked on files, but again, you'll be able to see messages as well. And there's also people, but I don't think there's anybody named "Please check this" in my organization. But maybe I'm looking for John. I'll search John. And now we can see under people, I've got John. I've got Joni, just because her name contains that. And I've got Jonathan, just in case Teams think maybe I'm not spelling his name right. If I go over to files, these are all the files that John has uploaded or edited. So you'll be able to look at that sort of thing. And then under messages, we've also got any messages where John was mentioned or that John has posted. And then you got some more filters as well. We can select date range, select team, all that sort of stuff. So again, search, very comprehensive. I highly recommend using it as often as you can. If you type a /, it will also allow you to change some other options as well. You can change your availability. You can look at somebody's activity. You can set away messages, so on and so forth. A lot of different stuff you can do from within there. I do want to briefly touch on activity. Like I said before, this is going to be very similar to a social media or smartphone activity feed. It'll show you all of your notifications, including reactions, praise, replies, all that sort of stuff. And if you click on them, it'll take you directly to that message and highlight it for you so you know what you're looking at. And then you can also change from feed to my activity, and I can see everything I have done within Teams as well. Up here in the upper right, we talked about this settings menu a little bit before, but I just want to go a little bit deeper. You can change your availability. Many of these availabilities will change automatically. If you are scheduled to be in a meeting, you'll automatically change to busy. If you are sharing your screen, you will be automatically changed to do not disturb. Do not disturb will prevent you from getting any notifications within Teams. And if you're away from Teams, you don't interact with Teams for 5 minutes, you will appear away. Now keep in mind you can change any of these availabilities manually, but if you change it manually, they will not turn off until you manually change it back to available. So be careful if you manually put it to do not disturb, because you'll stop receiving notifications until you manually change it to availability again. You can set your status message in case you're out of office. You can do that, and anybody who messages you will get at your status message saying you're out of office. You can view your saved messages here, and you can also get the settings from in here as well. There are a lot of cool options in settings. You can change the theme of Teams. Let's say you prefer dark mode for all your apps. You can use dark mode for Teams. Or let's say you need high contrast just to be able to see the screen a little bit better. You can do a high contrast mode as well, but I'm going to go back to default. You can change the app languages and the keyboard languages. Note this is not a translator. This is just the program itself. Priority access is pretty cool. Priority access means that when you are do not disturb, if you have set a person to priority access, their messages will still give you notifications. So somebody you want to be able to reach you in case of something very important. And you can block contacts, enable or disable read receipts. Sometimes this is on or off for all of Teams, depending on your tenant. That could be something that your system administrator either enables or disables for everybody. And here you can change your notification settings. One of the things I recommend is, unless you really like getting a lot of emails, I would change these from banner and email to either just banner or only show and feed, because you're going to get a lot of emails from Teams if you have these enabled for email. But this will allow you to choose what you want your notifications to be and whether or not you want them to show up as a banner, which is the little thing that comes in from the lower right-hand corner, and an email. And then you've got some call settings in here as well. And then also from that menu, you also have the handy dandy keyboard shortcuts menu as well. And this is definitely going to set you up for success if you get used to some of these keyboard shortcuts. In fact, you can bring up the keyboard shortcuts menu with a keyboard shortcut. You can hit Control period, and that will allow you to bring up the keyboard shortcuts menu. So I recommend going through these and looking at them, and any functions that you use a lot, go ahead and start using the keyboard shortcuts for. The one that I use the most is this one right here. Control-Shift-M will toggle mute. And if you're in a meeting, then hitting Control-Shift-M is a lot easier than getting that little meeting bar to come up and clicking on the mute button. And the last thing I want to go over is down here we have the Help button. And this, in my opinion, is the most important feature of Teams. Because if you click on topics right here, you will see that Teams itself has a bunch of trainings and articles that you can view directly within Teams that will allow you to learn how to do things. So let's say I forgot how to schedule a meeting. I can type it in right there. And now right here at the top, I've got simple step-by-step directions on scheduling a meeting. Super helpful, super useful. And then if you click on training under that, you've also got access to videos, usually between 1 and 3 minutes, that will just give you some tips and tricks on using Teams. So I definitely recommend you go in here. You can also go to support.office.com, which will also allow you to view articles and videos on any Microsoft Office apps, and that includes Microsoft Teams. So if you ever have any questions, you can check on in here or check on that website, and you'll be able to see what's going on. And then what's new will allow you to look at the patch notes for Microsoft Teams. You can see all of the things that have changed with every new update. So if you log into the app and things aren't working exactly the way you remember, you can check in here to see if something was updated. And then you have these last two options here, suggest a feature and give feedback. Again, very important parts. A lot of the features Teams have were suggested by users, and a lot of the features that are rolling out in the future, again, were suggested by users. Software engineers are really smart people, but they don't know what features you want in an application until you tell them. So I recommend, if Teams doesn't do something you want it to do, click on suggest a feature, and it'll take you to our feature suggestion website. You'll be able to look at features other people have suggested, and if somebody's already suggested the feature you want, go ahead and upvote their feature suggestion. And in fact, some of the most suggested features, I can go ahead and show you what the website looks like. You can see this one has been voted up very high, show video for all people in a video meeting. And a Teams engineer has responded saying that this feature is in testing. I want to use multiple team accounts at the same time. We are working on it. Multi-window for chats and more. They're going to start rolling that out by the end of the month. So as you can see, we do pay attention to those features that are suggested, and I definitely recommend using that menu whenever you can. And the last thing is give feedback. If there's something that you don't like about Teams or you wish it worked a little bit different, feel free to give feedback. I can tell you Microsoft does take it very seriously, and we read every single piece of feedback that does get submitted. And with that, I guess I'll see John. Do we have any other questions?
I think, nope. It looks like we are good to go.
Okay. All right, well, let me go ahead and post the link for the recording. This session may not be up immediately, but we do have past sessions available. So there we go. I just posted it in the announcement section of the Q&A. But please feel free to visit that. Also, if you do have a moment, I would ask, like I said, Microsoft really likes feedback. Here is a survey asking how we did on our training today, and I would really appreciate it if you would take the time to fill it out. But other than that, I would like to thank everybody for coming out today. I know it is Monday morning, but we're really glad you were able to make it. And I would like to thank John and Bonnie for helping with the Q&A as well. And I think that's going to be it for today. Again, thank you guys very much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you guys. Enjoy your day.